Welcome back to Between the Edits. As an editor, author service provider, and fellow reader, I've had the honor and joy of interviewing so many interesting people in the book world. My goal in sharing these conversations is to bring you, the listener, entertainment, information, and some book recs along the way. Supporting this podcast not only helps me keep the podcast going, but it supports my other work as well, keeping costs low for my editing and art connection services. So there will be some ad reads, but I promise they will be about good books or products and services from good people. Please consider liking, sharing, and commenting to help spread the word. Today's episode features a conversation between myself and Bailey Pendleton. Along with her crafty husband, Bailey is the heart and mind behind the Crafty Bookstore, an online independent bookstore servicing readers and authors here in the USA. I am so excited for this to be the first episode of Between the Edits. Make sure to listen all the way to the end to hear Bailey's response to the impossible task I set before all of our guests when I asked the question, what 2 to 3 books would you recommend to our listeners? So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, welcome back to Between the Edits. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Bailey with the Crafty Bookstore. So I'm so excited to have you here to discuss what is the Crafty Bookstore, how it got started, and all that fun information. So I guess we'll just go ahead and start with, do you want to share a little bit about yourself and the store?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Bailey, obviously. I'm the owner of the Crafty Bookstore, though my husband is a co-owner with me. The Crafty Bookstore is my childhood dream come true in 2024. And I'm an avid reader and I really read a lot of indie author books. So the Crafty Bookstore really emerged with a lot of my passions all pushed together, like crafting and reading and connecting people in a way that makes them feel valued and like family, even though we're all spread all over the United States and even the world. So it's been a really great ride so far.
That's amazing. So how did you even like get started with this, right? So it's online only, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's entirely virtual and you work only with independent authors?
Yeah, so we do have a few trad books in our store. We originally started with primarily gently used books and some
Mm.
traditionally published. And I had a moment where I realized I'm reading all these indie authors. Why don't I just stock their books in the store? And so I started reaching out to some of the ones that I was an ARC reader for, and they loved the idea. They weren't in a bookstore that they were aware of. And I was like, let's make this dream happen. And that's actually part of how our tagline or our slogan came into being is turning pages, crafting dreams. Because we're turning the pages on reading these books and turning these pages in our lives. And we're making these dreams happen by crafting them together and on our own and in like a community atmosphere. And it's just, yeah, it's just been really cool. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds amazing. And so obviously did a little research, looked at your website, your
Yeah.
socials, and all that kind of stuff. And one of the themes that I saw consistently throughout all of it was this idea of wanting to really dive into that community aspect and not just the community, but like a family. Um,
Yeah.
and that's always very touching. What does that look like for the bookstore? How do you guys create that sense of family feeling with your independent authors?
Yeah, so for our authors in particular, we actually have community resources. So we have Excel sheets with other businesses or artists and things like that that they can use that other authors in the store have also connected with and
Mm.
been, are able to recommend. But we also have a Discord group now where we just promote each other, we encourage each other, we ask each other questions. I have my own resources where I write down things about everybody's books and have them give me information so I can better promote and connect. If you like this book, you'll love this book and things like that. But also, we really focus on making sure that the author is aware that I care about you as a person first and foremost. So if you're going through a hard time, like just let me know and we'll do whatever we can to help you. If that means that I need to send an email to everyone to say, hey, your books are going to be late because of this issue that's come up. I
Mm.
don't have a problem doing that. Like, I'm glad to have the business take hits that would be helpful for the author without it hurting the author.
Mhm.
But also, there's just that fact of you're more than your book and you're more than money. You're a person, and there's so much behind that we want to connect with first and foremost. And the hope is that all of our authors feel like we're just one great big family. And if something's wrong or exciting, they send us messages and they're like, hey, guess what just happened? And we celebrate all together or just me and them. And um, family is a really big deal to not just the authors, but also our customers. And having that closeness where it doesn't feel like you're shopping with Amazon and it's a
Right.
robot. You
Hmm.
feel like this is a person who genuinely knows me and cares about me as an individual.
That's amazing. One of the things that it makes me think of, I was actually talking about this aspect with another guest, and it's this idea that writing the book itself, right? So for an independent author, any author, writing the book itself can feel like this overwhelming hurdle, right? And then you
Yeah.
get through it on the
Yeah.
other side, and I think a lot of times people don't realize how much work it can take on the
Oh,
other
yeah.
side of it. Like you have your first draft of your manuscript, right? There's all the stages of the editing, and then there's all the marketing and creation of the actual book, and all of that. And so one of the things that sounds like you have a similar experience with is I do a little bit of book editing as well. And I would get questions from authors of I'm your editor, but they were asking me questions about marketing, or I'm your editor, but
Yeah.
they would ask me questions about like who can I go to for cover art or formatting, And
Yeah.
so it sounds like you guys are doing a really good job of just being that first line of like, hey, we have a connection here, and I'm here to help you. And so like I'm going to find, a person who can help you do this specific thing. And I think that's really great because another thing that I learned kind of getting into all of this is I started off by investing in a lot of like the Facebook, writing groups and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And those are amazing, don't get me wrong, but there are also a lot of people on there that will use it for like scammy stuff.
Yeah.
And so I've heard so many stories and experienced myself where I would put a question out into a Facebook group and like I couldn't tell which comments were from like real people with genuine like recommendations or not. And so it
Yeah.
it carries so much more weight when somebody like you said you have an actual connection with that you know and trust that you've worked
Mm.
with before can recommend somebody else to help you with something too.
Oh, yeah. It makes a big difference. We've had that happen several times too, where an author's like, I want this very specific style of cover, and
Mm,
I don't know who to go to. And in our chat group, like three recommendations popped up within an hour. And then they actually are using one of them, and they just released their cover this last week. And it's the coolest thing to see that you can understand that there's a competitiveness within any business, but you can
mhm,
still have collaboration and community, even though it can feel like, well, I'm in direct competition to you. Well, not really.
mhm.
You actually want your readers to find you both because then you both benefit. Because if
Right.
they find one of you and then discover the other and you're similar in some respect,
Right.
then they can be like, I loved this, and now you need to love it too. And it's kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, let's just all work together and find this happy medium.
Right. Well, and I mean, you make such a great point. It's like nobody stops at one book. Like
Yeah.
if you like reading and you found a book that you really like, you look for other books that are like that. So
Yeah.
you make a wonderful point. I don't know if I've heard anybody quite elucidate it so well, but it's, if you find the authors that are in the same genre as you, you're not competitors. You are partners in that genre and the people who like it.
Yeah, exactly. And even though like there's a lot of books that have a lot of similarities.
Hmm.
There's like nothing new under the sun kind of a thing, but it's the way in which you write and your language, how you pull people in, how you push
Hmm.
them out. All those details are so different author to author that even if you use the same five tropes, you're going to find five different books with them that are totally different from each other still. And so yeah, I think there's just so much beauty in just connecting rather than pushing everybody away.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how did you get started with the bookstore? You mentioned before that you kind of were looking at like gently used books and doing something from that format, and then the independent author focus came later. So, just walk us a little bit through of what the whole following your dream here kind of looked like from the beginning.
Yeah, so I hit kind of a rough point in motherhood, just being honest there, where
Yeah.
I really started to feel like I struggled with who am I? Like,
Hmm.
what am I? Where am I in my life that gives me a sense of me still? And we got donated a ton of books to just us personally. And I started reading after I sorted through them. And I went from one book in a couple of days to I was cruising through books like one every night almost, or one every 2 days. And I joined Bookstagram. And in joining Bookstagram, I saw this lady who had started a store online only, launched a Kickstarter, got a physical store, and then she was tired of the grind and she sold the bookstore to someone else. And I was like, huh, I could start a bookstore online. And I was like, we have enough space in our home. I could make this work. So I pitched the idea to my husband because it is our home together. So I am going to be stealing some valuable square footage to use for the store. He loved the idea. He was like, go for it. And I did. We got a website within a month of deciding on it. I started buying gently used books. I started kind of like crafting our products because we make everything by hand. So we started making bookmarks and tablet sleeves and all those kinds of things. Um, and I primarily did start with gently used because we started with our own money to launch.
Hmm.
And I wanted to be careful not to hurt our personal finances. And then it took off like way faster than I ever would have expected. And by the end of our first month, I had signed on our first indie author.
Wow.
Um, and then it's just grown exponentially from there.
That's amazing. And one of the questions I always love asking is what is the importance of the independent part? So you're an independent online bookstore. You work with a lot of independent authors. That's obviously something that's really, I would say, especially in the book writing world, I'd say within the last like 5 to 10 years, being an independent author has just become like incredibly more accessible.
Yeah.
And how wonderful that is. And so I feel like a lot of people probably don't think about that same aspect applying to bookstores. So
Yeah.
just to kind of wrap up my question here, what does being an independent bookstore, why is that important to you? What does that mean to you?
Yeah. So, I mean, besides the fact that an independent bookstore is, privately, locally owned, I think the biggest factor and appeal of it to me is that I don't have a chain of other people who's dictating what I do or how I do it or who I promote or how often I'm promoting. And
Hmm.
also, there's so much more freedom with the creativity side of what people call like the sideline items of the bookmarks and all of the products that we make. Being independent means total freedom and flexibility to really hone in on our store and its brand
Hmm.
and what we want to become known for in a very, unique to us way, ideally.
Hmm.
And I think that's the beauty with independent authors too, is that you don't have a publisher who's, you know, breathing behind you like you need to do this or you
Hmm.
need to push this or anything like that. There's this I want if you want to jump from murder mystery thrillers to a romantasy, go for it. Why not?
Hmm.
Write all the things you want to write and make your dream come true, which is kind of the whole thing behind the store is just making everybody's dreams come true.
So it sounds like when you're working with an author, right? They sign on, and it's not just for carrying one particular book. You are signing on with the author so that future books as well, they have, like you said, if they wanted to write a romantasy, and then next they come out with something that's more like a murder mystery or a thriller, so you're signing on the author themselves, not necessarily just one book. Is that fair? Do you kind of do both? What does that look like?
Yes, so we do both. I focus on the author and the books they have out and that
Mm,
they want to stock with us. Because some authors, by the time we've reached out to them or they reach out to us, they have 7 books. And some only want to stock 2 to 3 of them. Some want to
hmm.
go for all of them. And so we give a lot of agency to the author for them to decide what do you want to do and how do you want to do it in terms of books that you want to add to the store. But if you have 7 books already, I'll stock all 7, or we can write them all in and you can stock just 2 to start and decide later, sales are going great. I want to add all of my books.
Hmm.
And we're totally happy to do that. And then any future books, all you have to do is let us know that you want to stock it and we'll add it into the contract. Like, no problems. We're happy to help.
So it sounds like being independent, right? All those things that you were talking about as a benefit of why it's important to you to be independent. The
Yeah.
two biggest things I'm hearing as far as your working relationship with authors and the readers is, like you said, the agency, you having
Yeah.
agency, but also being able to extend a similar agency to the authors, and
Yeah.
then that community aspect. Being independent
Yeah.
means that you guys can really focus on the mission behind the bookstore as much as the sales of the bookstore.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What's one thing that somebody might not expect about an independent bookstore that, again, if they're not familiar with the concept, what's something that might surprise someone?
It is probably a lot harder to get the visibility that you need
Hmm.
than it seems like. We're all on social media so much and we're scrolling and we see a million things. But if you're not already following us or if you don't know someone who is following us, getting that connection made to you is really difficult actually because the internet is so big and there are so many people on it that reaching our audience, which right now is anyone in the United States, basically, is really hard. And marketing is no joke. It is
True.
tough work that requires a lot of time and following trends, but spinning them in a really unique way is always my approach. Is like, I don't want to do
Mhm.
what everyone's doing. I want to do it my own little way.
Right.
And sometimes that creativity can feel like a really big burden because it's all on you when you're independent
Mhm.
and like a sole proprietor. You don't have a team of people who one focuses on marketing and everyone does everything else. I'm focused on everything all the time.
Right.
And there's probably a really big aspect of that that people underestimate in how much it takes.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that. So I've had the honor of interviewing, a good handful of independent authors, mainly up to this point. With the podcast, I'm branching out into lots of different types of areas of interest, which is really going to be really fun. But up to this point, a lot of independent authors so far. And
Yeah.
one thing I consistently hear is either the least favorite part of being an independent author or something that they didn't expect going into it was
Yeah.
just how much effort the marketing takes.
Yeah.
It's such a saturated, space, and
Hmm.
it's wonderful because there's so many people who are interested in it and we consume it so quickly, and so it all goes somewhere.
Yeah.
Somebody sees it eventually, but building the momentum
Yeah.
takes a lot of work. And yeah, so yeah, it's the same thing from the author side, same thing on the side. Marketing is its own beast for sure.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, it's growing. In the time that since we've launched, I've seen at least 12 other independent bookstores that have launched either
Mm.
fully online or like exclusively online or online and a mobile pop-up kind of a situation. So, I mean, just in almost a year of being open, I've seen 12. Like that's a lot of competition in one sense if you look at it that way.
Mhm.
Um, but it's also just it's a great thing that readers across the world are uniting and like just going for it. But it does
Yeah.
make it harder because we all want and need the sales. And so it's kind of like, oh gosh, that's 12 more people out there. I hope we all get sales. Like that's what I would love.
Yeah. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? I loved reading from a young age, right? But then once you're old enough to, your parents allow you to have a phone and social media, you see all of it and all that kind of stuff. It feels like reading has gotten more popular over the past like 5-ish years, maybe a little
Oh
bit more than
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Do you think it's been similar, would you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, part of it is I also re got into reading in the last like 5 years.
Okay.
Um, I hit a lull because of, motherhood and
Hmm.
career and stuff. And it was like reading is not a priority.
Yeah.
But I actually didn't start with the popular books. I was reading really random things and mostly murder mystery thriller books because that's like my true love at the beginning of reading. Uh, but it's definitely boomed and it's hitting the young adult market too, which I think is
Hmm.
great because I would love to see younger kids off the internet and off the phones more, like my
Right.
childhood. But it does make it difficult though, because with the market surging, that means more people are shooting their shots. It's growing and it's almost expanding so rapidly that it's hard to keep up with
Yes.
what's going on all of the time.
Yeah. Another one I'm curious your thoughts on. Do you guys do both like virtual and physical like copies of books that way, or virtual is housed somewhere else? How does that work for you guys?
Yeah, so we just do physical.
Gotcha.
Most of our authors are on Kindle Unlimited, which
Hmm.
eliminates the ability to do any kind of ebook.
Hmm.
Um, I haven't figured out the ebook side yet. If we do have some authors who decide to veer away from Kindle Unlimited, I haven't really looked into it because I know how important KU is to the indie world, especially.
Hmm.
So once I find out some of them are transitioning, I'll probably add that aspect to our website to
Hmm.
provide them another outlet because ebooks are huge and was way bigger than I ever even knew about because up until maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, I never even had read an ebook. So for me, it was like I'm an old person and this is a new world. But it's taken off, and I would love to add that on. But there's definitely competitor concerns with the big guys of
Yeah.
being able to do that and not in a way that hurts the author.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's completely fair. The only reason I asked is because I believe part of the reason that we're seeing such a big boom in people being interested in reading, maybe that we haven't seen before, is probably because of the easy accessibility of ebooks,
Oh, yeah, for
which is
sure.
interesting because when I talk to people who, enjoy reading, you're either like pro ebook or you're like, no, I want physical only. And I tend to
Yeah.
be in the latter camp where I'm just like, I did the whole e-reader thing and I can see how easy it is and convenient, but I just like don't like being on a screen that long reading. I do so much
Yeah.
better with a physical book, but
Yeah.
I think I would still say that the e-reading is probably one of the biggest reasons why we've seen such an increased
Oh,
interest in
yeah.
books in general, especially in younger crowds.
I totally think it is. I think that the screen factor works to the advantage of books in the
Hmm.
bookish world. I'm also more of a physical book girl than I'm an e-reader girl. I
Hmm.
do e-read, but it's probably like a 2 to 1. I
Right.
read two physicals to one ebook, and I read slower on an ebook, like a lot slower.
Interesting.
Whereas a physical book, I could fly through it.
Yeah.
And I know that's the opposite of a lot of people. I'm not sure if it's I lose my focus a lot or what it is, but it's just not the same.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I've never thought to ask that question before. I don't even know like if I would to compare how quick I read on an e-reader versus on a physical book, but it's
Yeah.
interesting. I have thought about I think I retain reading better when
Yeah.
it's a physical book, and that's why every
Yeah.
time that I was like when I was in high school or college or studying after that, I always prefer to have something printed off in front of me because
Hmm.
I feel like I retain it better when I read it on
Yeah.
a physical sheet of paper, but I couldn't even begin to guess why that is.
Yeah, I actually read an article about that. It's been
Oh,
a
cool.
while now. I can't remember exactly what it was, but there is a brain science to why people who read physical books retain the information better and for longer
Hmm.
compared to people who read material.
Wow.
And I wish I could remember what it was about how your brain processes it, but there is some major difference. And I guess it was a very common trend that if you read an ebook, you're more prone to forget details or have like a harder time doing the recall compared to if you
Hmm.
did the physical book. And I was like, oh, okay then.
Very interesting. Yeah, if you happen to find that article again, I'd love to read it and
Yeah,
pass it along to me.
yeah. I'll look through my stuff. I'm sure I've saved it somewhere because I save weird things like that all the time. So I'll have to dig through and see if I can find it again.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question for you. This is one that I always think is really fun as well. What's your daily routine look like doing this?
Ugh. Well, so in addition to owning the store, I'm a stay-at-home mom and we have two small children, and I also homeschool them. So home is crazy at times. It feels like it's probably really not that crazy, but I feel like it is. Generally, though, when I wake up, the girls are kind of like me. We're groggy and slow in the mornings. So they'll either start playing or coloring, or doing some kind of fun thing. I'll check emails and look at orders that come on overnight, kind of prepare myself for the day of what we're gonna do. Then there's usually a switch gears back to home life, which is like breakfast and cleaning, and then I'll do some store stuff while they eat. Then we do homeschool with more home stuff. When they go down for a quiet time, which is basically just chilling out and playing on tablets in the dark,
Hmm.
like or dimmed room for like 30 minutes to an hour. Um, I'll work on the store more and pack orders, email authors, do whatever I need to do, create content. That happens a lot during quiet time, especially reels, because I need like the peace of little people not walking through or shouting at each other. Then they're up, and the rest of the evening is just bouncing back and forth constantly. It's
Yeah.
it's like that most days. The majority of my time focused on the store is late at night.
Hmm.
I'm a night owl, so I read late at night and I do work on the store late at night, and I'll pack, tons of orders at midnight, and I'm just cruising along happy as a clam. Like,
Right. You mentioned earlier that you were going through a bit of a rough patch with motherhood. Like, I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to that and
yeah,
feeling like you lost a little bit of your self-identity in
yeah,
that. Um, has the bookstore going on this venture and working alongside that? Obviously, it's full time with everything else that you're doing. Already, what you're doing at home is full time, right? And then adding
yeah,
this on to here, fitting it in between where you can. Have
yeah.
you found that that's helped with that?
Oh, yeah. It's made a big difference.
Mhm.
Reading alone had a really big impact on having that sense of alone time
Hmm.
and me again. And then the bookstore has really made me feel that comfort and confidence in who and how I am now compared to what I would like to still be that I'm definitely not anymore. And so there's definitely a big part of the bookstore feeling like it's just an extension of me. So when people are like, "Oh, that's so funny," or like, "I love that," I'm like, "That's just me." And so there's a lot of joy that comes from the connection that I feel like it also creates too with just other people. Because
Hmm.
staying home, we go out and we run errands all the time, but it's really easy to feel disconnected from the world as a
Yeah.
stay-at-home mom, even though I'm by no means. I mean, I talk to people regularly in actual real life, but it's also really cool to connect with people over something that we both love, which happens to be reading.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you say that that's your maybe favorite part about all of this that you've created is just that extra sense of connection with people, or is
Oh,
there
yeah.
something else that you would say is your favorite?
I think the connecting is probably my favorite part. I have
Mhm.
people who I have become best friends with because they shopped at our bookstore and we just started chatting. It was like they placed an order and then they started messaging and I'm messaging back. And then, now I have like this new best friend in another state who I talk to, every day or every couple of days. And we know about each other's lives and kids and pets and all
Mhm.
of those things. And it's kind of like, okay, like I got a new friend. And bingo for the store is a huge deal.
I saw that. That would look
Uh,
really fun.
it's so fun. One, it's a challenge to expand your reading. Two, but three, I like write silly things when I repost everyone's bingo boards most of the time, and then the bingo gives me a chance to like message people, "Hey, did you love that book? Like, tell me about it."
Right.
Or they'll, crack a joke back because of the silly line that I reposted on, which is often reworded song lyrics, but about books.
Right.
Um, and so it's been really cool, like having these moments of like touch points throughout the day
Hmm.
and feeling like I have millions of friends now.
Oh, I love that. Um, so then the flip side of that coin is what would you say is probably the most difficult or least favorite, if that's a fair phrasing there,
Yeah.
aspect of everything that you do here?
Gosh. The lack of space in
Mm.
my home to have more is
Yeah.
probably a big deal.
Is that probably the
Yeah,
biggest limiting factor for you right now?
yeah, honestly, it is. I mean, I have six bookshelves in just our living room wall of
Mhm.
books, and then I have two more in our dining room, which is not a dining room anymore. The table has been moved out. It's like bookshelves and my husband's lather equipment.
Hmm.
But being able to like expand past where we are right now is going to be difficult without rearranging our home more.
Hmm.
And I don't I don't know how to do that in a good way
Hmm.
and not impact our way we live.
Right.
And so I would love to be able to get to a point where we have more space, or I don't know, the dream of a bigger house, like with a library like Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, the roll
Um,
ladder and everything.
yes, I will take that ladder gladly. Floor to ceiling bookshelves, done.
There you go.
But I think that would probably be the hardest part though, that is very hidden, is that capacity is almost at max,
Mhm.
and the constant shuffling to fit things is sometimes really time consuming.
I bet. Yeah. But also the silver lining there, that's a great
Yeah.
problem to have. It means that you guys are
I
doing really
know,
awesome
right?
work. So,
Yeah, that's exactly what I've been saying with any problem lately is like, this is a good problem to have. No complaints.
mhm,
Just got to figure out how to make it work now.
exactly. Yeah, I love that spirit. Is there anything that you would say in doing this that you have learned about yourself and that applied to your personal life that you saw kind of from that aspect, not just like a professional development, but a personal development as a result of doing this independent bookstore?
Um, I think that I always felt really creative before,
Hmm.
because I'm a quilter and I do like sewing of blankets and stuff like that. And I'd already made like little knickknack things, but I think taking my creativity and using it in such a very different way, which is
Hmm.
marketing, has really been interesting to take a business thing, and then now I'm applying my creativity to like, how can I fix this problem at home? Or how can I, rearrange this time slot of life that feels chaotic to make it flow better for all of us, or things like that that seem really silly in the grand scheme of things in one sense, but in another, if I can make home life easier and better, I can make
Hmm.
store life easier and better, because they do piggyback off of each other, because
Absolutely.
our home is our store.
Right. And I would think it would apply even for people who work outside of the home. Like, home is
Yeah.
where you come to rest and, be with the ones you
Yeah.
love. And, it
Mm,
also requires you to be able to, keep up the home, right? The more that
yeah.
the chores are done and that there's food on the table and all that kind of stuff that makes everything else easier. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of times, I think that that's really, really helpful for a lot of people is definitely if you are working from home and that your home is your work as well.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think I think anyone could probably relate to that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think it's so funny how often home can relate to work, or work can relate to home, and like the skills that you can bring back and forth.
Hmm.
But we oftentimes undermine one or the other in terms of the transferability.
Right.
But having them both in one spot, they're the same. It's just a matter of like, are the bosses little and like 4 and 5, or are the bosses grown adults? Like,
Right.
is
Right.
the chaos toys, or is it, oh no, the
Spreadsheets
server
and
went
emails.
down? Yeah, or like whatever it is.
Right. So my last couple questions here for you, and then I'll let you get back to your busy. So you were telling me earlier you guys got some books in, and that you're excited to get those, unloaded and everything.
Yes.
So last couple questions I always like to end on because we're all here because we're readers and we love it. So
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier your favorite genres are kind of more of the mystery thrillers. Is that fair? Or like what do you love to read?
Oh gosh, anymore it's everything. It
Hmm.
used to be primarily like mysteries, thriller, horror, which I
Hmm.
do still read a lot of. But I really got into fantasy and like magical realism.
Hmm.
Um, and let's see. I do read like romantasy. I love the blend of sci-fi and fantasy.
Yes.
Um, I love sci-fi. I pretty much read everything. I'm not a big romance girly though. It just
Interesting.
doesn't hit with me. Um,
You are certainly in the minority of the book
I
worlds.
I
Like
am
everything is romance right now.
I know, and I so struggle because I'm like, it's not my thing. And it's probably
Hey,
because
that's
secretly
fair.
I'm not a very romantic person. So maybe that's what it is. But yeah, if it's like a subplot,
Right.
love romance blended in. If the books just focus on it, I just
You want
struggle to
something a
get
little bit
into
more.
it. I think romantic comedy is going to be like my segue into romance.
Oh.
And I have a couple of those planned on my upcoming reads, but I'm not 100% sure. I just have to test the waters and see what happens.
That
Before
is
you
fair.
know it, I'm probably going to say I love romance books also. So
Give it a
I
little bit
do,
more time.
and historical fiction also love that too. That's
Yeah, well, and
another
that's
great
one that
one.
you often see blended with romance elements. I mean, pretty much
Yes.
everything, I feel like at this point, you're going
Yes.
to find a book in any genre that has a blend of romance.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would also be another one to kind of wade into the waters if you wanted to. I
Yeah.
don't think there's anything wrong with not having that be your jam, you know?
Yeah. I don't either, but it definitely does help to have appeal behind every book because
Yeah.
then like I can hype books better, which is something that I do enjoy is like
Hmm.
finding the way to hype each of the books in the store is unique because I've got to find a different target group who
Right.
like
Absolutely.
loves romance or who loves action or who loves romantasy or fantasy or sci-fi
Right.
or the hardcore sci-fi. And so it's fun, but it's
Yeah.
also definitely a challenge to be like, okay, how do I find these people?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, even just one of the things I also do is I help authors with their like ARC campaigns and things like that. And
Yeah.
just looking at all of the ARC campaigns that are out there, like you can tell that there's a very different approach to marketing those things and the books
Yeah.
themselves. If you've got something that's very romance heavy versus something that's more of like like a mystery, a thriller,
Hmm.
or something different. So it's all fiction. You'd think it'd be very, very similar, right? But it's not. The
Yeah.
feels are totally different.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's totally true. I've arc read for a couple of horror books,
Hmm.
but I struggle to find them.
Right. Yeah, they're
It's
very few and far between.
they're yeah. And then I've arc read for a lot of like fantasy or fantasy sci-fi blends.
Hmm.
And I think that's really the majority of arcs though is that I've ever done are like fantasy or
Yeah.
fantasy sci-fi. And there's totally nothing wrong with that. I think there's a lot of merit behind why certain genres boom at
Yes.
certain
Yeah.
times because of, the climate of the world and,
Hmm.
your personal life. I think all of those things really dictate why we get into the things that we get into and
Yeah.
why we get so heavily invested into them too.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I mean, even just thinking back on my own like reading preferences and experiences, the one thing I do try to encourage myself on is a fiction book and a nonfiction book because I really enjoy both. But if I
Yeah.
let myself, I'll just read fiction all the time. And I have
Yeah.
to remind myself that I do enjoy nonfiction, but it just doesn't have that same kind of like allure for me personally. But then
Yeah.
once I read it, I love it. And I'm like, oh, this is why I ask myself to do this. But
Yeah.
yeah, thinking about my own reading preferences and things like that is you can definitely see how you go through different phases with the genres that you enjoy.
Oh yeah.
And then how that can compound on a population level looking at book trends too.
Yeah, exactly.
Do your kids
100%.
love reading or your husband?
Uh, my husband is not a reader. I am trying to get him to dabble in it.
Uh-huh.
He didn't like reading as a child,
Hmm.
and it's just kind of continued on in life. I've given him a couple different books of genres that I thought he might like.
Hmm.
He gets like a chapter in, and he's kind of like, meh. But he's a big, big gamer.
Ah,
Which once upon a time I was a massive gamer myself. So I totally understand and relate to the love and passion for that. But it is funny because, when I first introduce the store to an author who might be interested in telling, I always tell them, like, I'm an avid reader. My husband's an avid gamer. We
yeah.
100% fit this stereotype. Like, if like children were not in the picture, I would be sitting reading a book while he is playing a video game, and that would be like evening life.
Yeah.
But our girls, we have two, and I have a stepdaughter, and all of them love reading to various extents. Our little ones adore it. They have a bookshelf in their room, even
Hmm.
that's just their books.
Oh.
And they like pull them down and just flip through them because they don't read fully yet. And it's so cute because I'm like, I'm going to have little baby book dragons, and it's adorable to watch because we'll go to the bookstore or my mom will take them and they come home every single time. I got a new book, and I'm like, I knew you would. We're gonna have to find some new room now.
There we go. The space issue again, right?
Yeah,
But a great problem, yeah. It's
yeah.
funny you mentioned the dragons. The actually one of the first books that I have a recollection of reading. obviously I think we had a bunch of smaller kid
Yeah.
books when we were children, but there was one point where I have a sister. My mom would read my sister and I a chapter out of Aragon every night
Oh,
before
yeah.
bed. And that's how we
Okay.
got exposed to kind of a lot of the stuff that both my sister and I love to read now.
Yeah.
So yeah, those can be very formative, years for kids with reading with
Yeah.
parents and kind of sharing in the interests as age appropriate as you can.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun. They love Cat in the Hat.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
any book that requires me to use different voices, all
Yeah.
over it.
Yeah.
They'll pick the same one like 5 times in a row just because I use like one or two different voices for different characters. And they're
Yeah.
like, this one, mom. And I'm like, please, can we do something different?
Yeah.
But it is cute and I cannot blame them.
Yeah. Another one we always loved was Magic Tree House. I remember that one being one that I would like get from school, and that one was like a little
Yeah.
bit more of like reading on my own, but Magic Tree House was
Yeah.
another one that I think
Yeah.
really kind of helped develop my interests as a reader for a young
Yeah.
kid.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited for when they get to that stage where they're like picking out these bigger like chapter
Right.
books, basically.
Right.
Like I'm super excited to see where they're going to trend because I have a feeling they're going to like divide and go different
Oh yeah.
directions with their reading. And I'm really curious to see which one goes which way because I have a guess, but
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what's going to happen in, a year or two's time.
Yeah, exactly. And if they go in different directions, I mean, you're just gonna have to get double the books, right? Can't double them up.
Exactly. And I mean, I'm not going to be mad about that, but I am
Yeah.
probably going to be like, we're getting rid of things in this house.
One in, one
Don't
out.
care what the, yeah. So we
Absolutely.
already
So
have that rule with other stuff. So
same clothes and shoes and yeah.
yeah.
So that kind of leads me into my question that I kind of like wrapping things up with, um, book recommendations. So
Oh
that's a fun
gosh.
one, kind of gives you an
Yeah.
idea about you as a person and then also good book recommendations for other people.
Yeah.
So you can pick the genre, you can pick the
Oof.
type or anything like that, but just two or three, if I know it's hard,
It
but
is.
two or three books that you would just like to kind of close out with.
Okay, so me personally, Martha Wells' Murderbot series,
Okay.
fantastic. It's sci-fi. I've listened to them all on audiobook, and Kevin R. Free does amazing as Murderbot. But it's this very highlight like sci-fi. There's a lot of action and just a massively diverse character cast and the crazy things that happen. And you'll never meet a robot that is more sassy and snarky than Murderbot is. So that whole series for sure. And then I obviously have to give a massive and major shout out to literally every author who I am looking at on these bookshelves over here. They all have the coolest diversity of books
Hmm.
with characters and plots. And there's over 100 authors now, and they're so cool. I would recommend any and all of their books that are in the store, because they're just great, and
Yeah.
I can't knock any of them. And the other book, since I'm gonna lump the whole store's worth of books into one book, because that's like true girl bookish math right there.
Right. Yeah. Gotta
One
support.
horse store worth equals one book. Um, I would say Rory Scott has a book called A Cruel Kindness. And I was one of her ARC readers, and I no joke read from 10 o'clock at night until 5 a.m.
Wow.
nonstop and just binged that book.
Hmm.
It was so good. And there'll be another one. I don't know when it's coming out, but it's interconnected.
Mm.
And it's this blend of fantasy and sci-fi. And it's this unique world and there's action and it's got spicy romance and there's this intrigue of like politics but in a very different not like royal fantasy way but like
Mhm.
corruption kind of a way and it's just so good. I would definitely have to recommend that one and she's an indie author too which is really cool.
Awesome. And what was her first name?
Rory, it's
Rory.
Rory.
Awesome. I'm going to create like a reading list from all the recommendations for each season. And so I
Oh
want to make sure that
yeah.
I can find the books. I'll definitely reach out if I have any questions about that one. But Yeah, those
Yeah.
both sound really interesting. And I think
Yeah.
if anyone's interested in those, as well as any of the books that you guys currently have at the Crafty Bookstore,
Yeah.
um, they can find you on thecraftybookstore.com. And you
Yep.
also have at the Crafty Bookstore on Instagram, is that correct?
Yes, and we're also on Threads, same username that's connected there. And we do have a TikTok, but I'm not really on there. It's not my jam.
Same.
I'm occasionally post, but I'm bad about it.
Yeah, that's fair. So primarily would be the website and the Instagram and the
Yeah.
threads, which are
Yep.
connected. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, I've had so much fun talking to you today. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for agreeing to be on. And I think, you can go and you can look at all the accounts, right? And you can go to people's websites and you can see that they try to prioritize community and the sense of family and all that's great. But then getting to talk to you, like, it's so genuine. It's so real.
Yeah.
You can tell that that is truly the heart of the mission here. So I'm
Yeah.
really excited to see everything that you guys get to. And I just thank you for letting me be a small part of that.
Yeah, thank you so much for interviewing. It's so exciting to have the Crafty Bookstore be on a podcast. Like, no matter how big or small, just having people find out about us and in turn find out about our authors is just the dream.
Right.
So, thank you so much.
Of course, yeah. Building dreams one day at a time.
Yeah, woo woo, craft and dreams.
Hey. Alrighty.